The best leaders that I know are patient and reserved and don't need the attention in the room.
Yeah.
And for us, we've personally been ranked top sales for 6 years now in a row in Washington and Alaska as a region. Top
great.
sales in the country 2 years in a row for one particular carrier. There's nothing loud about us. We are in the backside regularly. But what happens is that comes across when we meet with businesses, business owners, human resources people, CFOs, controllers, and their employees. Every single time, without exception, say this was one of the best partnerships we could have gotten into because they realize we're not like the others.
Thank you for joining us for part 2 of the Ben and Sway Show with Laura-Beth Christensen.
Talk a little bit about the way the most successful people that you interact with look at their employees and their whole human resource in general.
Mm-hmm. Well, my company, Leverage Benefits, is fortunate that we were selected and became an official member of the Puget Sound Business Journal Leadership Trust.
Mm-hmm.
That's a select group of pretty high-functioning, very successful executives, CEOs, presidents around the country, but
Mm-hmm.
specifically in the Puget Sound, I get to interact and talk with people who are in very high levels with great staffs and businesses and interact and exchange on leadership itself. Leadership is something that is so incredibly important to me. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm questioning my own leadership and how that works. And for me, it is that I work for them, and they all know it. So if you're all watching this, they all know. They know they can call. They know I'm a resource. They know that I would never ask them to do something that I wouldn't do. That goes back to when I was a lieutenant in a men's institutional facility. If I'm saying someone's going to have to clean a cell, I'm going to help clean a cell if it's necessary. I think leadership is being nothing more than the same as that employee, and the only difference is the responsibility for success or failure. Because frankly, if it fails, it's my responsibility. And if it succeeds, it's their bonus, it's their reward. They succeeded. And that to me is true leadership. It really is walking behind, watching them all advance, and asking what can I do to support that. And then hopefully watching them grow into doing their own things.
I think there's some confusion sometimes, especially for young people that are trying to become leaders, that you hear people say, oh, they own the room, or they go out and network. It's funny because I always thought that you were supposed to be more aggressive and assert yourself into certain circles when people are talking. And I mean, some of that stuff might be short-term successful, but the irony is I always treated things from a respect standpoint. So there were a number of people I wanted to talk to in a big room. And so I would try to make it a point to see if I could get some of their time, but I never tried to push it. And, and then I think follow-up is really key if you really want to make a relationship happen with that person. But what's ironic about this is that I always felt like I wasn't doing it the way they said in school or it said in the leadership. And I now get, oh, you're the best networker. And it's just kind of, it was surprising at first because I thought, I didn't do anything. And I think that's a lot the same in leadership. It's something where, one, you have to be present and be there. But I think, two, it's listening, being respectful. It's a lot like sales. People think you have to be up in people's face, and that's the mentality of sales. But Gary Vaynerchuk, he talks about how he's got a book out that says jab, 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 right hook, and the jabs are just give, and then bring in the sale. And I think that there's a misconception with like the noisy salesperson, the used car guy, versus
and all
real
salespeople.
Successful stuff. I just think that it's interesting when you really talk to leaders and you talk to people that they've done it. Their approach is I would say 10 to 1 the more thoughtful, more cheerful, and more patient and calm than aggressive and in your face.
I'll tell you, I went to a very small event with Gary Vee. We were on the Miami Dolphins right down on the field for a private event he did, and I spoke with him, and I can tell you that in a small setting and in a small event, he's not that screaming, loud, boisterous. What he does for his media and marketing and making sure he's communicating is a very different approach than who he is when you're just talking with him. And in a small group setting, he never raised his voice once. He was talking to everyone about sales and success. I'll venture to guess that probably the most successful people you know would fall on the introvert side rather than the extrovert.
There's studies that say that they're better salespeople.
Yeah. Well, hey. I'll tell you that if you tell me I have to go to a networking event in a room, I will find a table like this and a chair like this in a corner like this, and I will not move. And I'll hope that some of the people I want to talk to will come talk with me, and I'll later send them a message for a private conversation.
Yeah.
I don't work a room. I'm not good at it. I don't enjoy it. It doesn't make me comfortable, and it's not natural to who I am. Unfortunately, sales, like car salesmen, lawyers, insurance, and salespeople are kind of the most misunderstood sometimes and most hated group. Yeah. And the best leaders that I know are patient and reserved and don't need the attention in the room. Yeah. And for us, you know, we've personally been ranked top sales for 6 years now in a row in Washington and Alaska as a region. Top sales in the country 2 years in a row for one particular carrier. There's nothing loud about us. We are in the backside regularly. But what happens is that comes across when we meet with businesses, business owners, human resources people, CFOs, controllers, and their employees. Every single time, without exception, say this was one of the best partnerships we could have gotten into because they realize we're not like the others.
Let's link that back to something you said earlier. You said you got to the open spaces and where it felt like home, and your internal stress level, whatever it is, kind of just drops and moderates. Yeah. That's that same feeling. When you get in a room with somebody where you're expecting, you know, equipment sales guys for me, or some are just pound you. Yeah. And you almost, sometimes you give in, just like, okay, if I give in, will you go away? Or maybe it's just like, hey, somebody, would you handle this? And then you get in a room with somebody and you're talking about stuff that is completely different, because that now you're making a relationship happen, and that whole thing kind of drops. Yeah. And then you can get to real business. Yeah. I think that's what makes a lot of successful things happen, is because relationships and business relationships in particular are between people.
And when you feel like you are anchored or centered doing the exact thing that you should be doing, that will come across in a calm manner, not in a in your face, pushy, shove it down your throat kind of approach. I love that you just connected that for me, because I hadn't even considered that. And I have paintings on my walls of vast open fields with old barns. Those are the things that inspire me. And I never considered that the place I'm most comfortable in my world is in an open space where it's me and the earth. Yeah. And then the place I'm most comfortable in business is where it's an open space and it's calm and it's nurturing, and everyone can be who they really are, which brings value to each other.
So let's, this is all really good. I want to shift gears a little bit, if we could. Yep. You know, Bend and Sway, where we're at here, is a media group, and it's a creation of mine, because I didn't feel like there was another group out there that was taking advantage of all the tools, creating content and video and social media, and disseminating it in a way that was cost effective for my business, and that gave me the creative control that I wanted as well. So I just want to talk about here, as we kind of wrap this to a close, let's talk a little bit about the power of social media. When we first met, you talked a little bit about how you utilize LinkedIn, and how in some cases, and I feel the same way, it's as important or more important than your inbox with your email. Yeah. So why don't we talk a little bit about that?
Perfect. There are people who will resist at all levels, not using Facebook, not using Instagram, don't need that. And I spend a lot of time trying to explain to people that that is where we are at this point. Somebody made a comment the other day that I went to high school with, that remember when you used to get the newspaper and read an ad for a job, you'd sit down and circle the ones, or even houses, right? It doesn't exist. Cars. It doesn't exist like that anymore. Communication, even relationship building is done via social media. It really is. I have a great friend, and I say friend now because we met and engaged and partnered in business, and now we're friends, which is what I love about what I do is I end up creating partnerships that end up being friendships. His name's Yakov. He is the LinkedIn guru in the world. He travels all over and does trainings on properly using LinkedIn for business, not dumbing it down to just photos and memes and things, and how to use it correctly and build honest relationships and make a difference in your business. And so in my business, what matters is how many business owners can I talk with? How many of them can I simply share what we do? And if they like that and take advantage of it, great. And if I circle that back to social media, now we're about 80% of that is happening that way.
So your team is really geared up on this too.
They're on it right now.
And you know how I know that?
Because they're messaging you.
It wasn't even a message.
What'd they do?
It was, and this goes back to what I'm paying attention to. It was a comment.
Okay.
And then they linked your name back to it. Like, we really need to show Russ the story.
Oh, yes, I saw
Laura-Beth,
that. Yeah.
and then it just kind of bang, bang, and then there was a few different connections there.
Yeah.
And so, and you don't know, and I think even social media, you go in a little guarded sometimes.
Absolutely.
You have to. I don't know how many guys from India want to sell me lumber.
Yes.
It's like, I really don't need that.
Yeah.
But so you don't really know. So I see this and I go, okay. And certain people are aggressive on social media, just like aggressive car sales.
Yes.
And certain people are just on it. And I would say that I wasn't really sure where it was going. I didn't know what leverage benefits consulting was. But it really worked to get my attention over to, hey, they're paying attention to what I'm doing.
Sure.
I need to reciprocate and pay a little attention here. Did that. This happened, you're in town. I mean, I think I invited you yesterday on the show, and we just made it happen because I knew you'd been on video before. So I think that we have to be open to these interactions.
Yes.
They're different and new, but there is a tremendous amount in terms of sales for your business that are untapped on social media. It's a way to get to tell a story to a wide audience. We talked about public speaking. It dawned on me, and the reason I really got into social media is I spoke to the Western Governors Association. 400 people, very influential, powerful people. And I gave one of my better talks, and I felt I nailed it. And then it dawned on me. I communicated with 400 people.
At once.
This world's a lot bigger than that.
Yeah.
What if I had that on video, and I could have shared that on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and built a funnel to get all that back. And what if there wasn't that one person out of 400 that was really the person I needed to reach, or the 4, whatever it is? So that's where I really started my whole path down this road.
I'll suggest there's one more group or one more purpose to that, and that is to actually take the time to get to know something about the person on that social media, right?
Yeah.
So my team and I, when we're commenting and we're watching what's happening, one, it tends to be in the industries that we are really passionate about, that we serve, but it really is with the focus of who are the leaders there, and what do those leaders stand for? Because I'll be really honest, in sales and having a sales business, we're fortunate that we don't sell anything to the business owner, so there's never cost what we do to the owner for the owners. But what we know is it's perceived that way. But if I can find somebody that has like thoughts, like-minded ideas, moving in the direction I'm moving in, passions about things that I'm passionate about, I know that might be someone we want to talk with. But in sales, if you're really good at what you do, you know that there are some people that aren't good candidates for you.
Yeah.
and you can sort that out there as well. And so I feel fortunate to get to know something about leaders on LinkedIn when they're sharing what really is important to them and their business. We have been designated by the Washington Contract Loggers Association. We are the preferred provider for their 800 members. So I'm fortunate, Newport Equipment and Pend Oreille County actually, but the logging groups that are over in this area, fortunately I get to come back and forth and stomp around in my roots and work with them. But all over the country we get to do that same thing. Boise Cascade, very large company, they work with us.
Very cool.
But we wouldn't have some of these connections if it weren't for social media and for the fact that they can get to know a little bit about us. It's transparent in our world. We keep it transparent, and we get to know a little bit about them to see, is that a good partnership? Because business is a relationship. A marriage is a relationship. Business should be a relationship. In our world, it's not a sale. It's a relationship.
Yeah. You know, what was going through my mind as we close out here is it's hard to imagine, and I remember these days, the having to have a phone book, sometimes a payphone, and a map.
Pen.
Right?
Yes, and a red pen and a pencil, just for different things.
Yep, and this is an extension of that, and that's what a lot of people don't realize.
What were those maps that were books? McNally? McNally?
Yeah, the Atlas. Well, I was, one of my favorite, just to digress, was when they finally did the laminated fold-out maps. So now, I wouldn't ruin it, and I could actually, it wasn't illegal, I don't think, to actually read a map while driving. So that was.
And now I have Waze telling me there's roadkill on my trip to Chihuahua.
Yeah, well, I could probably say that any day of the week and be correct.
I know, I know.
So I think we should definitely maybe do this again at some point in the future. You've got a tremendous amount of value to share with people, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
So going forward here today, where can people reach out and find out more about you and what you're doing at Leverage Benefits Consulting?
Well, our LinkedIn page, which is Leverage Benefits, our website, which is leveragebenefits.com. I do public speaking, so I'm out in the world and in the field. Pacific Northwest Aerospace Alliance, they're a tremendous resource, and I'm usually at those events. So,
Great.
But we're out and about and working with a lot of manufacturers, aerospace and lumber companies.
Well, I can tell you I'm grateful for social media because it's given us this opportunity to do that today, and I can't thank you enough for coming on. So thank you for being part of the Ben and Sway Show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been a
Great.
pleasure.